Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to Kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
welcome everyone to another smashing episode of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. It's a really special one tonight. I'm Dean Zachary, your host. And believe it or not, we've got some special guests tonight. We've got Princess Barb. She's not an empress tonight. It's Princess Barbara Kelberg. You can tell by the hair. We have Captain Rob Davis. Some say he's one of the greatest pilots in the galaxy. We have a master Jedi with us, Master, I should say, Rory Boyle. And we even have a rumored Sith with us tonight, Aaron Humphreys. So, as you might have guessed, ladies and gentlemen. So we're gonna go right into our special subject tonight, which is all things Star Wars, because believe it or not, it is Star Wars Day. I'm sure you've been hearing about it all day on social media and regular media. And what we're gonna try to cover tonight in general is what makes Star Wars one of our favorite franchises as genre geeks. What are its successes? Where did it stumble, if it did? The movies, the comics, the expanded universe, the novels. If you want to talk about the toys and all that stuff, we can do that as well. It's been suggested that we even talk about some more serious things like, how come it's multi-generational and people's kids and grandkids love it? So we're going to cover a lot. And we want you to stay with us for the whole show, because later in the show, right before we say goodnight, we're going to have a special announcement. So I want everybody to hang with us tonight. It's going to be fantastic. Oh, what? Wait a second. We've got somebody special joining us tonight.
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen, here he is. There he is.
It's Emperor Palpatine himself.
It is John Palpatine Medic III. Welcome to the Star Wars special here at Silverline's Wednesday Wham. It's great to see you again, John.
It's great. It's great to see you, and it's great to be seen. So, how am I doing? Same as always. And as Han Solo would say in return, that bad, huh? But, yeah.
I've got a good feeling about this.
I have a very bad feeling about this. Yeah,
I do.
At least K2SO got stopped from finishing the whole sentence. So yeah, Star Wars thing, I can't miss this one.
This is going to be great.
I eat, I breathe, I live. They have at work officially down on my paperwork, official religion, Jedi.
That's awesome, man.
But with Sith leanings.
Yeah, see, how did I know that was the case? So I was setting the table a bit for the folks and saying what we're going to do in general, talk about the success of the Star Wars franchise and just its, presence in all of our pop culture beyond just genre fans. I mean, the little old lady down the street even knows what Star Wars is, and how, it has become this multi-generational. Yeah.
I love the Leia hair, by the way.
Yes, that's
I love it.
Barb.
That is awesome.
Barb.
Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah.
It's a great show that we're going to dive right in. Now, here's what I'd like to start with, and I'm going to start with Princess Barb. I would love to know, first of all, how many Star Wars toys you have in your house, because I know it's multi-generational with you. And then second, if you can count them. And then second of all, why do you think Star Wars has become the franchise that it has? What is it intrinsically about that particular story that seems to connect with everyone?
Well, first of all, do you see that the new Obi-Wan series is going to be starting within a week or two?
Yes,
on the 25th.
Yes, and that ties into my opening remarks here, is that this has been such an enduringly long franchise. It has spanned 45 years. Now, just think about that for a second. 45 years, and it's still as strong or stronger than ever before.
Yep.
And between films, TV shows, media, video games, novels, comic books, theme parks, it has made well over $70 billion.
Outstanding.
Billion with a B.
With
a B. People.
I'm in the wrong business.
$1 billion. Over the 45 years that it has been going strong. And when it hit the scene, hi hyper potato, make mine Silverline, you bet.
You bet.
When it hit the scene, I was a senior in high school. So, I mean, that ages me right there. 45 years ago, I was a senior in high school. And I had never seen anything like it. It was, at that time, it was the most technologically, at least I thought, it was the most technologically advanced piece of work that I'd ever seen. It was rollicking good fun. It was good versus evil. Cowboys, shooting them up in a border towns. It had your bad guys, your black hats, your white hats, and ultimately, it had your love, your romance, your humor. It had everything that appealed to me, and it had a good-looking hero, which is always an important thing for me. Yeah,
You were,
and a
you one of the
spunky
Ewoks?
heroine.
Yes,
Spunky heroine.
spunky little heroine, and she was really, really dinky.
Wow.
And it has this enduring quality that it brings hope. I think it's a lot has to do with hope and a promise of a better world to people. And I introduced my son to Star Wars when he was 5 years old, and he was on VHS tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Auto tracking.
Yes.
classic.
Yes. And he was instantly hooked, and it became a mother-daughter, or I mean, a mother-son tradition for us to see every Star Wars themed thing that came out. He was entranced, and when he married a gal that, this is hers. He married a gal that loved Star Wars just as much as he did. And
So
if
she's
you wanna
done right
throw
by
up-
you?
Yeah. If you want to throw up that graphic, you can see that not only do my son and daughter-in-law love Star Wars. Are you putting up the photo? Can you put up that photo?
Let me see.
Yeah,
but
it's worth seeing. It's a great shot. I
Did you
love
send it to me?
it was in the messenger.
It's in the messenger slot. Yeah.
Okay.
And not only was my son raised in the Star Wars tradition, but he is also raising his children, my grandchildren, in the Star Wars tradition. This is my grandson's lightsaber.
I want to do
Oh,
the
gosh.
Oh.
So it's unusual that you find something like this that crosses generations and just keeps going as strong every generation as it did the previous generation. And there's a love there that really is kind of inexplicable, because I think it's got a universal appeal to something at the heart of all of us.
There was a couple of things I noticed first seeing the film that stood out to me, because I love music, and the music of the period beyond the rock and roll we were listening to for movies was fairly tame and incidental. Certainly with science fiction films, you had a lot of sound effects. You had a lot of experimental music, especially Planet of the Apes. And even in Star Trek, you had some classic feel to it, but there was just a lot of need to add sound effects. In contrast, the Star Wars soundtrack was like this almost Shakespearean classic. It was just completely in contrast to the visuals you were seeing, right? So instead of getting this, synthesized soundtrack, you had the classic orchestral fanfare that almost sounded like a Knights in Armor, Excalibur, King Arthur movie. And the contrast of that really stood out to me immediately, because I'm like, wait a second, I'm seeing spaceships fly around, but I'm hearing knights in armor on horses, and that immediately, I don't know, stuck with me to make it, again, just another aspect to make it unique.
It was
Did
more
anyone catch that?
Robin Hood than
Yes.
than, which is interesting in that it's the same guy that did that music also did the music for Lost in Space.
Yeah.
The theme
John
song for
Williams.
that. Yeah.
Did they use Yes, you're right.
Wow. But
You
it's the
remember
same,
that.
same
Yeah.
composer. It's John. Yeah, it's
John Williams. And do you know
John
he
Williams.
actually appeared in a cameo in one of the movies?
Really?
I did not know
Yes.
that. Which
Actually,
one?
yes.
As an Imperial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cameos from a whole bunch of people. It was like the trendy thing to hide yourself behind a stormtrooper mask in one of the movies.
There
Oh,
it is.
Look at
there
that.
it is.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
It's a very
Saw
small
it, but look-
image, so it's kind of fuzzy because its original size was
I think we can do better than that. Let's do this.
this. Like it was this. So I'm not sure.
What?
I
That's
had to-
smaller.
I'm going to try this one.
He was showing what it looked like
Did they
originally.
Did they use Dies Irae in the soundtracks?
So
I'm
I
sorry.
don't know.
It's
Did
that,
they
it's
use
that
what?
classic. It's called Dies Irae. It's like the Day of the Lord, and it's like this classic trope in music. I know they use it in Phantom Menace.
I know that, yes. I
If you
believe they
heard
did.
it, you would know it.
I would know it. I know that what we had for those first three films was the London Symphony Orchestra,
Yeah.
which is still considered, the premier orchestra
Gold standard.
for films. Yes, absolutely. What I really noticed too was the fact that we were back in the thematic approach of Peter and the Wolf in terms of
Mhm.
each character had a theme that was
Yeah.
evident and connected to that character, and John Williams expertly interwove that theme, right? So,
Yeah.
and I love Star Trek. I'm going to throw the contrast in here just to really make it clear. Star Trek never had like a Kirk theme, right?
No,
I mean they
no.
had a Vulcan
Yeah.
theme that was a
They had
baseline.
a Kirk fight theme.
They did have a Kirk fight theme. So exactly.
Oh,
But
God,
That's
yes.
about it.
The odd thing was that it had themes, but here we had clear themes for Princess Leia, clear theme for the Force, and so on. Even battle themes. When you saw the X-wings, that.
Oh, yeah.
So what each thing is, and you have of course the Force theme, the sweeping romantic theme, and these are carried through all 9 films expertly. Now, John, I want you to go next, and I want to know first of all how many Star Wars toys do you have?
Oh my God, how many Star Wars toys do I own? More well than you could imagine.
Ah, indeed.
Come on,
I love it.
So, really, nobody's gonna play along? Because the award, the reward will be what? Well, more than you can imagine.
You can imagine.
I don't know.
I
I can imagine enough.
quite a bit.
I can imagine a lot. He's like, you'll get it.
Yeah,
I better.
yeah.
You will.
You'll get
Come on. This is a
I know.
Star Wars show. You
I
guys
know.
can't recite it from front to back. I'm with amateurs. I
could.
swear to God.
You are. See, you need to start us up, man. Tee us up. Tee us
All right,
up.
so I got Kylo right here. He lives with me in the living room. Hold on a second. I got me a Praetorian Guard. I also have a whole bunch of shit that just fell behind me. Oh, sorry, Roland. But no, I never got rid of my stuff. So everything from 1978. Yes, I know the movie came out in 1977, May 25th, 1977, which is why Obi-Wan's coming out May 25th, the holiest of all holidays in my religion. But
How old were you?
I was 4, and actually I was gonna go there, and then I was like, oh, she said she was in high school, maybe I'll just kind of skip that part. But no, yeah, I was 4 for 2 months at that point because I turned 4 in March, and on the 22nd. But my mom took a sewing class on Tuesday nights, or Thursday night, so it was like boys' night out. So I'm an only child. My dad and I would go and do whatever I wanted, and I was like, I want to go see Star Wars, and we saw Star Wars, and I was hooked. And I'm like, I want to go again, and I want to go again.
My son was 5. My son was 5, and the first one, he was just like, that's it.
So we did that for, probably 4 or 5 weeks, and that's like unheard of. And my kiddo, who's also an only child, also has my name too. He's John Medic IV, heard these stories growing up. And he's like, I hate Star Wars. Star Wars is stupid. I'm like, you're adopted. You were switched at the hospital. What's wrong with you? You were dropped on your head. Well, actually, you kind of was. That's a whole different story.
My daughter doesn't like it. My son, total devotee.
When the new trilogy came out,
yeah,
he was hooked. So there's even an old Facebook post I have up there with John playing with the Kylo Ren lightsaber before the movie came out. Yeah. And I was like, okay, maybe I didn't fail as a parent. And then I was doing a small local comic show in Joliet, Illinois, and John went for the day, and he got like a Kylo costume. It was awesome. But all those years he had heard the stories about me and Dad and Boys Night Out, and he's like, I want to do that with you. So we saw for, we started with episode 7, then Rogue One, then episode 8. As long as it played in Illinois, we went and saw it. So nice. 23 weeks, so once a week, 23 weeks in a row, we saw the new one.
Wow.
Yep. And then it was 22 or 23 as well for Rogue One. And then they were in the theater shorter. But yeah, we were driving like an hour plus to get to like the second run theater when they still had it up in Bloomingdale, Illinois. And I didn't have time to go grab it since Princess Babs there. I had like some cool props already. I actually took all the tickets, the movie tickets, blew them up, and I have 2 giant poster frames with just the tickets of me and Mini-Me going to the theater. My dad had not been in a movie theater and I don't know how long. Now we're talking the generational stuff. My dad was not like a geek like I am. But he supported me on whatever I wanted. My dad had not been in the theater for decades. And when Mini-Me asked, could Grandpa come with? Because we went out to dinner with my parents who live close to that second run theater, my dad came with. So my dad was there for Force Awakens with me and the kid. And I'm going to cry like a baby right now. So shit and not have to think about emotion. So,
it's definitely something very, very special with my son and I. One of the movies was coming out just as he was coming back from a deployment overseas. I can't remember if it was Afghanistan or Iraq, but he's like, you can't go until I'm back home. And fortunately, it was still in the theaters when he got home. So because this is a you and me thing, you cannot go without me. And so he always, after he got to be a certain age, he started treating me to the movies. So it became a date for us to go to all the movies together.
The first time we ever left, so my son's mom, first time we ever left him alone after he was born, and not like alone, meaning like not with us. My parents they came to babysit, and that would have been for Revenge of the Sith, because that was also my son was also born in March, so it was like 2 months, so we could go to the midnight film. So my parents came over and they stayed with him overnight and did the overnight shift. So yeah, so the first time that we left Mini-Me alone, it was so we could go see Star Wars. And actually, like the first movie I saw in the theater with his mom was Attack of the Clones. So, the worst one out of the prequel series to some people. So that's kind of fitting. But yeah, that's a whole different story. But yeah, no, it's been ingrained in all parts of life.
Now, John, I want to ask you before you go on. I want to ask you specifically, what to you made this endure as long as it has? What basic aspects of Star Wars is it? What we've already touched on, the sort of epic nature of good and evil that's defined, because I would suggest the universe that Star Wars lives in has a very clear good and evil compass.
And I'm going to answer that, and I'm going to throw in some shades of gray. And I really think that, for the original Holy Trilogy, that was very much true. It was very much black and white, good and bad. And then as we started going towards, the later movies, prequels, and then the sequel trilogy, you have to admit, there's a lot more shades of gray. So, definitely as a kid, it had everything that I wanted. It had action, it had adventure. I never had a crush on Princess Leia, but she was like a badass lady that the girls were able to identify with. We would go out in my backyard and play Star Wars. My dog Champ, that's always Chewbacca.
Of course,
we'll bring the dog in. But there were so many different archetypes. And if anybody knows anything like anime wise, my favorite anime is Gatchaman, which was here in the US as Battle of the Planets, which was the first one that kind of had like the 5 character setup that like Voltron took and stuff later on, where you have like the good guy leader, and then you kind of have the angsty second in command, and you have the beautiful girl. And it's like Star Wars fell right into that too, and that's why it came over to us in the US in 78. Sandy Frank Productions bought the rights to it, redubbed it, brought it here because they want to cash in on the Star Wars craze. But that was made in like 70 or 73. So yes, the black and white, it was great. But growing up, the movies growing up, there's a lot more shades of gray now. Rogue One, and I find myself really identifying with the other side a lot more. When with Rogue One, when they were going and looking for Galen Erso, and Krennic finds him on that planet, and he's like, we were this close to bringing peace and stability to the galaxy, and Galen's like, you're confusing peace with terror, and Galen's like, you got to start somewhere. I'm like, I get that. I understand that now.
What did you think? What did you think of the robots? I know because you were 4.
Yeah.
So did that help bring you in? Or was it the fireworks show, or was it the robots and the fireworks? It was everything.
Really, kind of all of it. I mean, just like holistically, the good, the bad, the spiritual. And I really liked, that it was more spiritual there, without necessarily having dogma behind it, like a religion. Because
I noticed
kind of like
too.
You could tap into it. The way Obi-Wan talked about it, you could tap into it. It's it's the energy.
Put the blast shield down.
Exactly. It's an energy that surrounds us, penetrates us, binds the galaxy together, as opposed to midi-chlorians, and we have blood tests, and and so I really kind of like the spiritual part, because I definitely clicked with that. So as a kid, I loved it all.
I thought it was very brave for the screenwriters, and I know it was George with some help from Marcia and others, but the idea that if you think about the message of the initial film, episode 4 now, but back then it was just Star Wars, was as Luke was approaching at the end, and he's going down the trench, and he's got to figure out when to fire. Okay, because he's got to hit this very small target, the exhaust port, right?
That was and not much bigger than a Wombat.
No.
We used to,
it's T-16 back home. Yeah, I know. Yep. So, but here's the key to the movie was, he turns off his tracking computer. So here you have a film that people were praising as, cutting edge technology. Oh, the ships and the computers and the robots but here at the crux of the climax of Act 3, you're turning off your technology and going with what? The spiritual connection to the Force to blow up the Death Star. I thought that was brave and very brilliant thing to do, because that really gave you what you brought up. I was going to bring it up later, but you brought it up now, so I'm touching base with it. The spiritual hook began there. It's like, wait a minute. None of this stuff matters. Earlier in the film, one of the scoffing Imperial officers offends Vader by saying,
Admiral Oswald. No, not Oswald.
Yes.
That's the second
no,
one.
No.
I know which one you're.
You know what I'm talking about, right? There at the meeting table.
It becomes the I find your lack of faith disturbing. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror that you created.
Right.
Ability to.
It is insignificant when compared to the power of the Force. And then he says, your sorcerer's ways haven't conjured the plans, etc., etc. And then we have the choke, right? The first choke. So again, the message was, all this stuff you see with computers and all this, it's really cool and everything, but the Force blows it all away. So don't get too tied into it. That was a huge message.
I think it was Mahdi. I think it's Mahdi now that I'm not.
Is that what it is?
I'm pretty sure. I'm looking it up now, but I'm sure it is.
We're going to move on, though, to let's go with Rob. Rob, talk to me. When you saw the film, tell us a little bit about how it resonated with you and why, in terms of being a creator, and what elements of the first Star Wars really did it for you.
I was hooked scroll, or after the scroll,
And
the
then that huge
ship.
Yeah.
comes, the little bitty ship comes through, and you see these little,
Yeah.
pew, 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 and you're going, oh, what's this? And then this rumble. Because I was in a theater that had the Dolby type sound.
Oh,
and
wow.
oh my God. It was this huge thing, and you felt it come over you. And I went,
yes.
Oh, and I leaned back for the ride, and I was hooked from that moment on. But and I had been reading about it in Starlog magazine. They showed little pictures and kind of talked a little bit about it, but I had no idea how big this thing was going to be. I think I was there. I went in the middle of the day, and I think I was one of 3 or 4 people in the theater. There were very few people in the theater in Springfield, Missouri. The word hadn't got out on this thing. I don't know if it was the first day, second day, but it was right near when it premiered. And I was one among just a small handful of people there. But we were all just wowed by this thing.
How old were you, Rob?
I was I graduated high school in 72. So that's the 77. So it's 5 years out of high school.
Wow.
21, 22, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 22.
So a 4-year-old
were
was captivated as much as the 22-year-old.
Yeah.
See that there's something so powerful about that. Yeah. Yeah. Now,
and then the story, and I understood this later after reading about it. I think Joseph Campbell is the one who talks about the hero's journey. Yeah. And that movie took that theme and ran with it. It hit every single notch along the way on that story. I mean, but at this time, most people hadn't read about this or whatever. But apparently, Lucas actually consulted either a book about it or actually talked to Campbell himself about this, and his story hit all those marks. But but the really big thing is just like Indiana Jones was built on the old serials movies every Saturday. Back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, you went to the movies every Saturday, and there was a serial, and each week a new chapter would drop on this serial, and at the end of each chapter there'd be a cliffhanger. So, but there was all this action and all this stuff going on, and this movie captured the feel of those as well. It had everything in it. It brought in going science fiction like it did. It could bring in samurai. It brought in cowboys. It brought in just all sorts of different themes. World War II aerobatics with the and now Siri's talking to me about it. It brought all of that stuff in.
It did. Do you know there's some trivia out there that Lucas initially wanted to make Flash Gordon. And this was after his huge success of American Graffiti. And he was at his peak, and he wanted to make Flash Gordon. He's always wanted to make that. And he inquired about the rights, and the Hearst Corporation would not let go of the rights. They had King Features Syndicate who had them, and they didn't want to let it go. So Lucas got frustrated and just went, okay, I'll make up my own version of Flash Gordon. So he started to delve into the Campbell literature, which covered all of the mythologies and also the hero's journey. But also, he was a fan of Kurosawa, and Kurosawa had a film called The Hidden Fortress. And a lot of Star Wars, the A New Hope, is borrowed from The Hidden Fortress, all the way up to the humorous characters that are C-3PO and R2-D2. It's also interesting to note that the robots were intended that if it ever became a serialized long-term franchise, which he wasn't certain it was going to do that, he wanted the two robots to be the characters that carried through the entire storyline.
They were the
along
throughput.
Along that line, Anthony Daniels, who played C-3PO, has done 10 of these films.
That's amazing. That's just amazing, and he's done a great job with that. So, from what you're saying, Rob, I get the sense it was the amalgamation of all of these storytelling maneuvers and classical traditions seamlessly brought together and packaged in a fireworks show that had yet to be seen on screen. We had never seen ships move like that. I mean, now they seem, painstakingly kind of slow. If you look at the space battle at the end of A New Hope, now it seems a little quaint. But, at the time, we weren't used to seeing actual fighter plane dogfights in space. That was something
cutting
I'd never
edge.
seen.
It was most science fiction. You could see the wires holding up the little rocket ship moving across the screen. The best one prior to that I know of was Forbidden Planet, which had great special effects in it, which is it has a lot of the elements from Forbidden Planet were carried over into Star Trek, but that's a different thing entirely. But that was the biggest. It had the best special effects prior to that, but most sci-fi quote sci-fi films up till then were done on the cheap with really bad special effects. So
I would add to your special effects prior to Star Wars that 2001 had reached the peak, but the difference was the Stanley Kubrick's intention in 2001 was realism. He was the Chris Nolan of his day in terms of he wanted to do it as real as it could be done. So no sound in space, which was going to be substituted by beautiful classical music, right? So I think that Williams and Lucas decided to go with classical music partially because Kubrick had made that a touchstone to his piece.
Right.
And but of course, I also know that Lucas and the editors of Star Wars looked at a lot of dogfight sequences from World War II air combat films like Midway and also the Battle of Britain, and also actual footage that was shot of fighter
some of it
scenes.
recreated frame by frame.
Wow.
And that also helped. It helped the writers to know when to cut, and also pilot jargon was something that you had to know a pilot at the time. You couldn't just get online and go, what do they say when they're coming in for a landing, or when they're taking off, or when they're coming in hot at a target? But so they had to find all that out. So, they interviewed people, but also a lot of these films had already done the research for them. So they could just, watch a 60s air combat movie and get a lot of editing ideas and that sort of thing. So it had a World War II feel to it as well.
The dogfights, especially the TIE fighters and the X-Wings, those fights definitely very much, because they swooped and in space, that ain't happening.
But still, it was cool.
The physics in 2001 were spot on.
That was spot on, correct.
The physics in Star Wars, it definitely it's a fantasy movie.
Obviously
a fantasy movie.
You may
because there's no sound in space.
Right. You might know this, Rob, but the TIE Fighter screams are a nod to the German Stuka dive bombers that literally scream. They were designed to scream. They would go into this nosedive when they were bombing London and bombing, Britain in general. And it was part of the psych op. It was a psychological scare to have these terrifying screaming sounds. And Lucas was brilliant saying, we're going to sound engineer these things to be scary. I mean, they look weird. It's just literally, you've got a softball with 2 playing cards on the side. It's like bizarre, right? Makes no sense. But when you hear that scream of those things coming toward you, all of a sudden, okay, I'm buying it, So
it all worked. It all
worked. It all worked. Rory, I know you're itching back there. I can feel that you're itching to talk, man. Come on, talk to us. You're the youngster of the group tonight.
Oh man,
I want to hear like, how were you introduced to the original trilogy, and did you take to it right away, or were you one of these youngsters that was like, meh?
No, I was always a sci-fi buff because my siblings were, and my dad as well. We always watched Star Trek together, like when Next Generation was new, every Tuesday night.
Right. Very cool.
And then Knight Rider before it. But the first time I saw the original, like A New Hope, it was on TV, so it was like the truncated version.
Yeah.
Edited for time.
Right.
And so, for 4:3 specification.
Yeah.
Not widescreen.
Yep. But then when I, went to the library, got the VHS of them, it was just a whole new world. Just took to it right away.
Ah,
there we go.
Wow.
Took to it right away. Loved it. Loved everything about it.
What about thematically? Because I know, talking to you offline a lot, we get into our deep philosophical conversations. Yep. Did you immediately connect with the deeper messages, or did that come later?
Yes, both. Immediately I picked up on it. Anything with that force, anything like some otherworldly phenomenon affecting the real world, the tangible, is always interesting. I don't know if you want to call it paranormal or what, but always piques my interest. And then that with the subsequent movies, how they would go into it more and try to explain it and like science it up, kind of ambivalent about that, but it's an interesting thing. I think what really gives it its grabbing and staying power is that it's so expansive of a universe that you can shoehorn things in and like, hey, it fits.
Yeah.
You can have all these movies on the side, Rogue One and Obi-Wan coming out and Mandalorian and all this stuff. And it's like, you already know the world, you're comfortable with it. But it all fits, it all works.
So, how does it affect you or inspire you as you approach your Silverline stories? How does it inform your decisions as a creator?
Like I always looked at 30,000 foot view, the story arcs and archetypes.
Okay.
Yeah, like John said before, his classic archetypes.
Universal themes stuff. Speaking of John, Amy Stefani says, hello, Silverline. Number of Star Wars items in my home, thousands and thousands and thousands. And we're supposed to ask John. He will tell us all about them. So that's great. Thanks, Amy. We're glad you're here, and we're glad you're a Star Wars fanatic because, boy, we all are, it sounds like.
Yeah. Dean, that's my fiance, right?
I do.
Yes.
Wait, just making fiance? Wait. I knew it was girlfriend, but hey, wait a second. We've upgraded. Congratulations.
A year and 2 days from now. So, yeah.
Love it. Congrats.
Look at this.
Is it going to be a Star Wars themed wedding?
Are we all invited?
The venue where we'll be getting married is not it's not large enough to invite everybody, unfortunately. Although yes, Star Wars will be represented. And I like movies. Amy likes books, so she came up with a brilliant idea that we do some sort of theme crossing the two over. And yes, so my religion will be very well represented.
Awesome!
That is a great segue.
Congrats.
Into
Thank
comics.
you.
Congratulations.
There was an awesome Star Wars series that Dark Horse, was it Dark Horse? Yes, Dark Horse.
It probably was.
With Al Williamson.
A long time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, yes.
I have all of them.
Awesome.
The entire run. These are Al Williamson. I just
were those the ones from the TV show from the newspaper?
Do you know
Archie
what?
Goodwin, Archie Goodwin and Al Williamson.
Okay.
They did this. They did the comic strip too, if I remember right. I think it was Archie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then that's the reprint compilation of the comic strip. I think
put out by Dark Horse.
That is a cool series.
It is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It is. That's a great part of your collection. Tommy Flormonte, the inker who never sleeps, says, howdy, folks. Number of Star Wars related stuff in my house, hundreds and hundreds of hundreds. So he's getting close to the thousands.
I think that speaks to the whole franchise, their merchandising and how well they did it. and what they put out, like with the lightsabers. It's something, a part of that universe that you can physically partake in.
Yes.
Makes
Yes.
you
Now,
really drawn into it.
there were toys that came after. We were familiar with sci-fi genre toys from Star Trek and even from Planet of the Apes. But they were usually small figures. Yeah, the Migos, right? And once they came out,
those were the 10-inch, 8 to 10 inch.
Oh, okay.
The clothing ones.
There was, I actually have a Boba Fett that's like the 12-inch Boba Fett.
Oh wow!
That came out after the 1980 film. But when they first came out, remember, they didn't realize this was going to be a big deal. So it took them a while. They didn't have it. Oh, look at that! It's awesome.
You talk about 12-inch Boba Fett.
look at that.
Half-inch Luke Skywalker.
I think I got the old Lego
somewhere. And Princess Leia. Yeah.
That's awesome.
There she is.
But you're right. Once those toys started to come out, it was a given that, this was going to be just huge. And you remember it took 3 years until Empire Strikes Back. And the buildup toward that was so
had to be huge.
And what you guys don't realize is when we're sitting in the theater, because you didn't have the internet, you didn't have all the gossip stuff. When the big reveal came that, no, Luke, I am your father, right? That was the biggest
It was an atomic
shocker.
Bomb.
That was huge. Again, if the first movie, just the nature of the movie itself was a ripple in the genre world, the ripple of the reveal of Vader being Luke's father was just gigantic. And there were people who just refused to believe that. No, he's lying. There's no way. No, there's no way. And so, then we had another 3-year wait till Jedi to see how it all was resolved. But I remember Empire elevated the material because I know all of you have heard various interviews over the decades now where Lucas gets criticized, so he'll go, "Come on, you guys, it's for kids." And it is, but it's not. It's one of those franchises that spans, as we've said, the generations. There are elements that are more juvenile. There are elements that have depth and more mature themes. It's got it all at its very best. It hits every single note of the orchestra, from the funniest slapstick of C-3PO bumping into something and falling down to the depth of, does Luke kill his own father or show mercy and let him live, only to throw the Emperor down the well and then die on his own, and then, burning his father's armor and all this other. So, the
unintentional stuff was great.
Yeah.
The stormtrooper bumping his head when he walks through the doors going up.
that was accidental. But,
yeah. I'm glad they left that stuff in or didn't airbrush it out.
There was a lot of stuff with Harrison Ford where a lot of the lines were so complex because the initial script had a lot of dialogue that was technical and hard to say. And a lot of times Harrison would just say something off the cuff and they would end up using it because it worked. One of my favorite quotes from Hamill, and John, you'll know this because it's been on YouTube in recent years. Hamill's being interviewed and on a talk show late at night, and he does this impression of Harrison Ford and how he was so awestruck by how cool Harrison Ford was when he met him on the set. So they're shooting the first movie, and they're talking about the scene right after they're in the trash compactor, and they're covered in all the goo from being almost killed by the trash compactor. And so Mark Hamill's trying to be all serious about his role, and he's like, wait a second. This happens right after the trash compactor, right? So, my hair should be wet. I should be covered in goo and stuff. And Harrison Ford looks at him and goes, "Kid, if they're paying attention to your hair, it's not that kind of movie. We've done something really wrong. They're paying attention to your hair." And he was so cool about it that, Mark realized, I'm being too much of a geek about it, right? But he does the delivery, that laconic delivery of Harrison Ford so perfectly. The dude has chops beyond just what you think. We know him from all the animated voices that
the
Mark Hamill has
Joker.
done.
Oh,
gosh.
Joker. Oh, my word. Oh.
But just the talent this guy has displayed in the ensuing years after Skywalker is just outstanding. But I would be remiss if I wasn't going to my friend and the Sith apprentice himself, Aaron Humphrey.
Yeah.
What do you think, man? What
I knew that was
pulled you
coming.
into it? What pulled you into it when you first
Star Wars is
saw it?
not my thing, dude. I'm sorry.
I know.
It's just not. I just have nothing to say. I'm sorry. I just don't have anything to say about it. It's not my thing. I don't own any toys. I think I have the movies. I have the movies I watch every once in a while, but that's it.
Yeah. Was it the effect? Did the effects do anything for just the
not really.
or nothing? Just you couldn't get into it.
I like the AT-ATs.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I thought they were cool. Yeah.
What missed it for you? Because this would be very educational, I think, too, for those of us who want to do stories and not alienate somebody who's watching. We want to have something everybody can jump in on.
I don't know, just too simplistic.
Okay.
It was too bad guy versus good guy. That stuff. Those kind of stories just bore me.
Too black and white for you.
It's too black and white for you.
Well, there's nothing mentally engaging about it.
It was too much. Almost a childish fireworks show for you.
I don't know if it's child. I mean, it's not childish. It's just nothing to engage. There's no more questions it's asking you. There's nothing. It's just he's bad, he's good. They fight. I mean, there's just nothing. So my brain just turns off. There's just nothing to that. So sorry.
Not trying to get in.
So
I hear you. No, I hear you. Were you into the Japanese anime stuff then at the time, or no? Okay, this is way before.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay, so when did you discover it? Was it way after its heyday, or
I think
it was on TV?
I went to it with my dad, I think, when it came out in theaters. I saw Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, but I don't remember when I saw them.
Okay, but they were in the theater at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So I have more fond memories of Tron. Tron was my favorite.
Okay,
That was great.
Wow.
I really liked Aliens. I liked Predator. Me and my family bond over Predator. That's our favorite one.
A good
Predator's
family
scary
bonding
movie.
movie.
You have an
My
annual
mom
family outing.
loves the Predator. She's not a big
Predator
fan of
was
cars,
a cool
she loves the
movie.
Predator. She thinks it's cool.
That was a cool movie.
I think Scott's
That's
in
cool.
agreement.
That explains a lot.
I just threw it out there. I threw out the Sith. Oh, wait a minute. We've got someone else. We've got someone. Is this Captain Swake? Could it be? Hang on a second. Hang on. Scott, welcome, my friend. Welcome. I knew you couldn't miss.
There he is.
Here's our smuggler pilot.
There he is,
Pilot
indeed.
Swake, Captain
He
Swake.
smuggled something.
Captain Swake. How are you,
Nerf
sir?
herder. The Nerf herder is here.
Half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
There we go.
Who's
Hi.
Scruffy-looking.
Hi.
We can hear you now. We've got you. How are you, sir? Welcome.
I'm well. I imagine we're talking about that movie, that obscure space movie.
Something that came and went. Some Star Wars thing. I don't know.
Harry Potter and the Ring of Azkaban.
I don't know what it was. So I'll throw the same question to you that I've been throwing everyone. What about that first movie or any of the films connected with you? Why do you think it works and it's such an enduring franchise? And what influences you when you create your stories that is connected to Star Wars?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I was listening to Aaron, yes, and I would say with a caveat, my Star Wars love has declined rapidly these last installations, partially because I feel just bombarded and I can't keep up. And I am a dad, and I know my kids should like it. I can't. But you compound it with the Marvel movies, I'm falling. So I've kind of like, I don't have the energy.
You can always come back to it later.
I will. I plan on it, but
I'm oversaturated.
Exactly. And so, like with Doctor Strange is coming, I want to see that, but I haven't seen a bunch of stuff. So Star Wars, I fell off, and then so I love the original three. And we had them on cassette, taped from something that they were before the digitally remastered ones. And then when they re-released them in the theater, I was in high school. And so I'm not old to remember the first time they re-released them with the extra Lucas stuff in it that I thought was dumb.
You didn't like the Emperor's skeleton?
Yeah, well, the whole CG Jabba at the Millennium Falcon, and Han walks over his tail and goes, "Oh!" It's the dumbest. But I love seeing them in the theater, and that was an experience. Seeing movies like that in the theater, I think, are fantastic. So they hit the marks with storytelling, and yes, they can be simple. But I think they're good enough that they're not brainless. They've got an amazing story, and they hit all the marks. So, but then now I saw episode 1 at 12:01 a.m. when it came out in the theater. And I actually, if anybody wants to give me a few $10,000-$12,000, I have an untorn ticket stub for episode 1 because my buddy was supposed to come. One of my buddies was supposed to come with me, but then his mom changed her mind, and he was very sad the next morning while I was like, yeah, episode 1. But then episode 1 was so awesome, but then it was like then I started to think about a lot of it later, like the next day I'm like, kind of yeah. It was good, and then and then after that they're okay, they're entertaining. And so on the entertainment factor, and I am of two minds with a lot of books or movies. I can do I love it, it's fun, and then I can at the same time hyperanalyze, and I enjoy it. It drives my mom or my sister nuts when I analyze a movie like that.
Is that like when we saw Sucker Punch?
Yeah,
no idea what it was
Sucker
about.
Punch was a stupid movie. It was so fun. But
2 months later, we still didn't know what it was about.
Wait a minute. Yeah, there are so many. Like even I love Lord of the Rings, but there's so okay. I do not like the Hobbit, the new Hobbit stuff. I can't.
Good.
Right. But I can enjoy them. So so as far as applying the principles of Star Wars, there is mass market appeal because there is the fundamentals. I think the basics of storytelling are there, and I that's a good thing if you're making a movie that you want to entertain. I think that's great. So so for Steam Patriots, we want the fundamentals of the story. We want a relatable hero. We want the hero to be complex. And I think Luke is complex. Of course, he's got problems, and it followed. It's Star Wars isn't formulaic, but it you have your archetypes.
Sure.
And so I think you do need that. I always feel like when you start with the fundamentals, then you can mess with them. Learn the rules before you can break them, kind of thing. And you need those because with storytelling, I do like when it's odd or unique or interesting, but sometimes when it gets too far, I don't. Then you're just. I can't do it. I can't do super artsy. I like. If I'm going to look at a painting, I love me some Norman Rockwell. Red balloon. What was the focus features? Remember when they came out? They were real artsy for a while, and then some of their movies are just like, this is.
They're trying too hard.
Too hard. Yeah, art for the sake of being artsy.
When we get out of the movie, if I have to explain what happened to my husband, then that's not a good movie.
The Lighthouse. Rory, did you see that one? I thought this is going to be awesome. It's going to be it's like a sea story. It's got Willem Dafoe. It's going to be great.
Yep.
I couldn't figure that thing out. And then so we're in the van. We had my friend. I made a big deal out of it. It's like, this is going to be awesome. We brought friends along.
Lighthouse service, heck yeah!
And I'm like cringing, like this is the dumbest movie. And we all get in the van, and my wife gets out her phone, and they get out their phones. I'm driving, and they're all looking at what the heck just happened in the Lighthouse. And like every review is the same. Well, we think this, but then they did this. So then this, but did that mean this? And so in summation. We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah. Great acting.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Willem Dafoe and the camera angles and the lighting is like it looked like a really cool 1930s 40s movie.
Yeah.
But it was so dumb.
Sometimes
mermaids.
Sometimes art and style can overwhelm true content.
Yes.
And that's one of the cases. Sucker Punch is another example.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Zack Snyder. That's one thing Aaron and I talk about all the time. I love Snyder's aesthetic, his artistic eye, but sometimes the stylistic elements can overwhelm a good story. And I'll get writers telling me, I get the same thing with Ridley Scott because I'm a big fan of his visual eye as well. And people will say, well, Dean, yeah, they look real pretty, but I can't find, what's going on with the story decision and this, that, and the other. So I get it that can be a problem. Tell me a little bit about Felix Ward and the similarities between Felix and Luke, because I kind of felt that reading that first. I don't know if that was intentional, but
yeah.
I mean, I got a little Luke vibe from.
He does have
character.
a little bit of a clueless and
impetuous.
Impetuous is the word.
Impetuous.
You just made up a word.
That's awesome.
Hey,
I'm owning it. I'm going to use it.
We knew what you meant.
See,
yes,
you're inventing
impetuous.
words.
I'm only a college student. I don't have a degree.
It's
yet.
amazing tonight. It's great.
And I just finished finals,
anyway.
so my brain is mush.
It's totally understandable. Go ahead. Sorry.
Right. Impetuous, a little hot-headed, and he's going to have to go through. We want him to start off at a point that you can work with him, and so we try to throw in. When you only have a limited number of pages, a limited number of moments to introduce your character, we wanted to show that he's not going to make the best decisions, and maybe not even through the whole. We wanted to be complex too. We're trying to give him those situations where there's no easy choice. So and so right now, what's that
character too?
What's that?
The mentor character.
Yeah, he's gonna have. Ben Franklin is gonna be. He's gonna have that mentor.
That's sort of the Obi-Wan.
He's Obi-Wan.
Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin is Obi-Wan.
Ben Franklin Wan.
That's pretty cool.
Only his close friends knew him as that.
Right.
He hasn't heard that name in a long time.
He was trying to hide, so he changed his name to Ben.
Indeed. Is there a Princess Leia archetype? Maybe waiting in the wings.
Don't know. See, that's the thing. That question comes up a lot, and so we can look at it two ways. It would make sense to throw Haley. It would make sense to throw that sort of character in because people want it. But you also
we should just tease it the whole time.
That's kind of what we've been talking about. Like maybe, or just maybe not, because it seems like you gotta always throw that love interest in or whatever. And
maybe you don't.
Sorry.
No, maybe not.
Maybe he should be writing letters to some French girl.
So essentially, do Treasure Island. Because Robert Louis Stevenson wrote that for his son. I forget who he wrote it for.
Yeah,
and his son says, "No girls,
no girls."
Isn't that interesting?
He requested a story.
No girls.
Well,
it starts off with a mom, and then she's gone. Yep.
And that's it. She's the only.
But unlike Robert Louis Stevenson, we welcome girls and we welcome Haley to us tonight. And we are so glad you're here, Haley. It's always good to see you.
Long time no see.
How did you stumble into the Star Wars universe? And tell us if it influenced you at all, or was it something that friends or family introduced you to? How did you, or are you into it at all? Or tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I can't even remember the first time I watched any Star Wars. It's just kind of I've just kind of always known it existed, was born. I mean, I remember the prequels coming out kind of when I was younger, but I didn't go see them or anything. But we did have the original trilogy on VHS.
Nice.
The original versions without the extra CG stuff. And I don't know.
That's what I introduced my son to.
Maybe my brother has them now, but yeah. So those were pretty cool. So we
So you've never lived in a world without Star Wars?
No, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's just always been around. I never got to watch it and be surprised at the Darth Vader's Luke's father reveal, because I just knew that through osmosis.
Great Simpsons moment.
Yeah.
Who would have believed it?
Something I knew before I'd ever really watched any of them.
What drew you to it? Was it simply the visual aspects, the fireworks show? Was it the characters? Was it something else? What pulled you in? I know it was evident, and it was almost a foundational backdrop to your childhood in a way, but what drew you in? Because it's always something a little bit unique for each person.
Yeah, I don't really know, because I can't remember Yeah, because it's just one of those things where it's just like
it was just there.
It just exists. Like everybody just knows about it. Like it never kind of just was like, oh, this is this new thing that has come out. Let's go watch it. Like it's just kind of always, I guess it's kind of always been there. And then I can't remember like getting into it really, but just kind of like having seen it and stuff. And then maybe like in high school or something, really like, okay, I feel like I haven't really like sat down and watched all of them. Like I don't remember. So then I think like my family and I, like when the first of like the newer ones came out, the
episode 7,
yeah,
Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens, yeah. So blanking on what that was called. I think we like went
Yeah.
and we watched our VHSs before we went to see that. So
oh, cool. So you kind of got back into the culture because it got popular again. Because there was a little break between episode 3, the prequel, the last prequel, and the first sequel. There was kind of a break there where there wasn't any.
Yeah, and like those, I never like saw any of those in the theaters when they were coming out. I mean, I guess I was probably pretty young, but you know, like caught them on TV. Like that's
yeah. Oh yeah, because they're always on USA.
They're always on, yeah.
Turner,
So.
You know, Turner Broadcasting, or whatever. So fabric of your childhood. That's really, it was always there. That's interesting too, because it's an aspect of our lives now that I think people take for granted, and those of us who never had it and then got it, we're like, oh yes, you know. Start speaking. Yeah. Here we go. Look, we're just bringing people in. Right, Brent, welcome, my friend.
Hey. Yay!
It's just a full house. This is a really special show tonight. We've got so many folks showing up. Just welcome, my friend. I'm gonna throw it at you here. Star Wars. When did you first see it? What pulled you in the most? Was it the cool fireworks show? Was it the characters? Was it the underlying messaging? Was it good and bad? What was it about Star Wars that you liked when you first saw it?
Well, you know, I think I saw it at a drive-in when my dad threw the family in the family station wagon, put the seat down in the back, and my sister and I in sleeping bags, and we saw it at a drive-in.
Family adventure. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
that's a good way to do it.
You know, there's just something about it that was so pure. It was such an accessible story with characters that you really liked and just a real epic sense of everything. Like if you watch any of the knockoffs that happened right afterwards as everyone was trying to ride the wave, you can see the difference because they're just so bland by comparison in every single way. So and even as a kid, I mean, I was what, 6 I was 6. And yet I still knew that, you know, this is something really pretty special. So
one of the elements that Rob brought up, and this is interesting. Rob first saw it in the theater when he was 22, and this pulled him in. And I remember this was the first thing that pulled me in was, well, actually, it was the second thing. The first thing that pulled me in was the soundtrack. Okay, the idea that up until then, science fiction had sort of experimental, synthetic synthesizer sounds, trying to be futuristic, quote unquote. And then all of a sudden with Star Wars, we had this classic orchestra that sounded more Shakespearean and more, you know, epic, Robin Hood or Knights in Armor kind of thing. And then the second thing, this is what Rob brought to mind again, was that Corellian ship coming right over the camera after you see the smaller ship, right, escaping, the blockade runner escaping. It's being shot at by something. And then you hear that rumble, and the rumble gets louder and louder and louder. And then you see, you know, the Corellian coming over the camera, and it just keeps going and going and going.
My eyes just got like this big.
Yeah. And you saw the three engine lights, you know, at the end when you're like, okay, I was just in at that point, just visually alone, and the sound, I was in. So it was a fireworks show and sound effects. The other element,
I was going to say, does anybody agree? Would Star Wars be Star Wars if it weren't for John Williams?
No, it would not be.
No, it would not be.
Anyways, I really feel like if that soundtrack wasn't part of it, it would not be what it is.
I don't think you had popped in yet when I said this, but actually, he was actually a stormtrooper in one of the movies. He got a cameo.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
there's
awesome.
been a
That's
lot
awesome.
of famous people that have done cameos.
So I threw you off theme.
Thank you.
Not at all. Not at all. Roland says, love Barb's hair. Roland also mentions Big Crew tonight. Yes, it is.
Yep.
Hyper Potato says, the man is in the house. Hyper Potato says, Barb is a princess.
She is.
Of course I am.
And Amy
she's
also
responding to
chimes
me.
in and says, responding to Scott, says,
Yeah.
no way, not without Williams. And I think
Right.
that's so true. So
And
true.
who was the artist that originally did all of the promo?
Ralph McQuarrie. Yeah.
Incredible.
Incredible.
His design work, really gave it that look.
Even some of the creatures, he created some of the creatures too. In
Well,
the cantina scene.
It's been written about a lot, but he went to the head of 20th Century Fox at the time because every major studio turned him down because sci-fi movies were B movies at the time that you just kind of shrugged off and were like, yeah, it's either arty or it's for kids. Who cares? And he went to Alan Ladd Jr., who was heading up 20th Century Fox at the time, and literally it was those McQuarrie production paintings, and it was compelling enough to see what he had in mind. It was the visualization that helped sell it to the studio to get him the huge sum of $10 million to make the first movie. So, and then of course, the people who saw the previews of it, I remember reading that Francis Coppola and a lot of George's contemporaries at the time kind of felt sorry for him and were kind of patting him on the back after the premiere, the press premiere, like, man, I'm sorry. It was a good try though. But Spielberg supposedly walked up to him afterwards and said, don't listen to them, George. This is going to be big. And of course, it was. So I thought that was kind of interesting. There's a lot of stories like that. Yeah, really big. We're going to have our fearless leader, Roland, join us here in a moment to talk more. But until we do, I would be remiss if I didn't have our friend, the word bomber himself, John, share with us his collection. You've got one of the most vast collections of Star Wars stuff I've ever seen. John, please share a couple of your photos if you got a moment. I want people to see.
All right, so I'm going to see if the sharing thing works, and actually, it's going to be more photos. Let me see. Okay, share screen.
Mm-hmm.
I want to share a window.
What really?
Can you guys see a window?
I see you.
I see. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So,
I mean, you're not bad to look at, but I just.
All right. So what I did is I kind of pulled a couple of the pictures of things that we talked about. So this is actually my kiddo. My kiddo is going to be in all of them because he's the most precious thing in my life. But this is exactly that post that I talked about. That maybe I didn't fail as a father after all. My kid wanted a lightsaber. I captured this. Thank God for camera phones. And then I mentioned the movie tickets. So those were blown up. Those posters were 24 by 36, and it captures all the weeks that kiddo and I saw Force Awakens in theaters.
Nice.
This was before Force Awakens came out. We were doing that small show in Joliet, and there were cosplayers, and he wanted to go back the next day in cosplay of some sort. So we went, and he got the whole Kylo Ren outfit. That was going to be September of 15. Movie wasn't even out till December. Went back to the show the next day and ran into a Mara Jade. So we've got, actually that would be his aunt now, turns out. So that was kind of cool. And then, of course, he decided to keep it for Halloween, too. So he's looking badass, getting candy, slicing people up with the lightsaber if they're not giving like chocolate, circus peanuts, off with an arm.
Nice.
And then just so nobody thinks that I just get him the cheap lightsabers, that's actually like the Toys R Us limited edition, glowing, and the glow up one that he also had out for said Halloween. This was my office back when I was a dean over at ITT. This was taken in 2016. So I wanted everybody to see that I had a shrine to Boba Fett and behind my desk way back in the day. And then a couple of the pictures. That's my favorite Star Wars poster ever. A year after it opened in 1977, there were still like 200 theaters in the U.S. playing it. So think about that. Think about any movie these days hitting a year mark, still being in the theaters. So they sent that poster out to the 200 theaters that were still playing it, kind of as a thank you because it's 1 year old. That's a reprint. The real ones cost a lot of money, and I can't afford those. And then that was the next year, and I wanted that one in there too because that was generational. So that was 2016. Kiddo dressed up as Ezra Bridger from Star Wars Rebels. Since we're talking about the whole idea of generational Star Wars. So Star Wars Rebels became his Star Wars. That's how he referred to it. So it was actually kind of cool to have all those things to go through. And then, bam, he's ready for Rogue One. And Rogue One was awesome. I have nothing to fear, for all is as the Force wills it. And that is the collection of photos I have for you tonight. And then,
man, that really shows the generational issue that we were talking about. Thanks for sharing that, John. I
Thanks
appreciate
for
that.
Me. Appreciate it.
No, not at all. And what we hope is that Beyond the Stars and Obsoletes, as the action adventure spacefaring series, do even a 10th as well as Star Wars, and Cray does a 10th as well as Conan.
A 10th, crush them. We'll crush them.
Yeah, well,
that's right. We'll crush them. And that being said, we're going to welcome our fearless leader, Roland. Welcome.
What's up, everybody? I'm not sure how to respond to that.
As you can see, we're having a blast tonight, not only with Star Wars, but with our franchises that we're about to launch. And then here we go with this great, not one, not two, but 3 Kickstarters tonight, launching tonight. Great opportunity. Tell us more about it.
Man, I'm so excited. You guys probably remember when we first started this, we were doing just, one at a time. And then we grew so much that we're like, we have too many books. We're going to have to start doing 2 at a time. So we said, what can we do that's exciting? We're like, well, let's do flip books. Those are cool. And so, we've been doing flip books. I don't know exactly how long we've done it. I have to go back and look. But we've been doing flip books for the last, handful of times. And then it just kind of... Over a year, yeah. Mm-hmm. So at least over 6, probably closer to 8 Kickstarters, if I were to guess. And then I started looking around, and I'm like, we don't have enough months again. It's like we got to do something else. I'm like, so can we do 3 books at once? And I've seen Kickstarters that do 3 at a time, but they're usually always 3 singles. And I'm like, but that's just not us. That's what can we do? We can't really do a flip book and with 3 books. So I'm like, giant size. Let's do like a giant size comic. And so I talked to our pals at Kablam. I talked to Tommy, and he's like, well, here's what you could do this. And he started going stuff back and forth.
It was a good Tommy impersonation.
Can you do that a little taller?
How's this?
Yeah, that's good.
What's up, Piper? Yeah, man, I'm more slap out. So and then we're like, well, what can we call it? And I want to try to give credit to who. I think it was Dean. I think Dean said, what about Elite? And I'm like, ooh, I like Elite Edition, Silverline Elite Edition. Oh, yeah. And so our Kickstarter exclusives are going to be called the Elite Editions. And so nice. I'm excited about it because 3, and I got to tell you guys, a little known secret. Mm-hmm. Let's see, this is May, so June, July. So the next one's in July. I am 98% sure what's kickstarting in July already.
Yes.
Three more just to
we
be
have
clear.
Too many books.
Awesome. It's awesome.
It's a good problem to have. Huh?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It really is. Can you? I have a question for you.
You're not licking all those
Leader, I have a
envelopes by
question
yourself.
for you. How are we looking as far as possibly a distribution situation? I mean, you have to get into details, but just in general, are we close? Are we on the way?
Well,
How are we
so
looking?
I mean, we are like this close. Okay, so I've got to. How can I say this without giving things away? Okay, so I think we could probably make the move now. Part of the problem is I don't have time to do it, and that's between 6 Kickstarters a year, and obviously if we go to 3 books a Kickstarter, trying to do that, I don't have a day job still. I wish. Don't want them to hear it. It's like my day job gets in the way of my fun job.
Right.
So,
I know the feeling.
but I got a plan. If I can put something into place, that could get us there quicker, and grow us at the same time. So, whether that can happen the way I want it to happen, I have these dreams. We could do this. We could do this. We could do this. And then
what is our headquarters building going to look like?
The Avengers Tower, of course.
If there's any sugar daddies out there that want to come in, I would really love that because
I keep buying lottery tickets.
Yeah. Where's this going, Barb?
I
keep looking for an old widow with.
I'm the one that keeps the books, and I'm just saying, a sugar daddy would jumpstart us a lot faster.
Do you want me, Barb? You want me to call Elon?
Yes.
Hey, did you guys see that I tagged him the other day?
Right?
Yeah, me and Elon, like this.
You guys saw that I tagged him the other day, right?
What? No.
Seriously?
I did.
Seriously?
In a tweet. I tagged him in a tweet. I'm like, what's going to hurt?
Yeah.
So,
what's it going to hurt, right?
What's it going to hurt? I mean, what they going to do? Ban me? I tagged him and said, wouldn't it be cool if he invested in an independent comic company, right? Silverline Comics.
Great.
You go, Roland. You go. That's exactly what we need.
Let's go for it. We need that.
We need
that.
No response.
We have got so many books and so many quality books that we're having a hard time finding the space to produce them all.
That's it.
We need.
Y'all, we have almost done 30 books.
Whoa!
Right? See, you just don't think about it until you start thinking about the numbers.
Don't think about it.
It's like we just we're just making comics, we're having fun, you're skipping around. Let's go, Elon. Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
But I got to looking and I started counting up, and I'm like, that's 28 books. This one will put us, if I'm not mistaken, then I'd have to count again. But I think this coming Kickstarter will put us at 31 books.
Wow.
Awesome.
Ooh.
Right?
That is fantastic.
I
remember. Roland, do you remember the day when you and I began this conversation and you said, do you think we should just start our own company? And I go, yeah, I think you should.
I have the spreadsheets.
Barb was there.
I remember it slightly different, but yeah.
Yeah. And we were talking about, what do we do with Silverline? What do we do? Do we go under somebody else's established banner? Do we do this and that? And I was fiercely for just going off on our own and doing our own thing. And you were too. And so was Barb. And it just seems like, look where we are now. And boy, you project 6 years down the road from, another 6 years down. And where are we going to be? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting.
It is exciting. So. And as Barb said, we've got some quality books. And you look at and not quality books, but a wide range of stuff. If you like superheroes, we got that. If you if you like science fiction, we got that. If you like horror, we got that. And that excites me because there's a little something for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a vast library for all interests and all ages. And, we were talking about Star Wars today and what an enduring franchise it is. When it started, it was just a little film for $10 million that nobody really believed was ever going to do anything. So, you know, it's a David and Goliath world out there for creators.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and you know,
let's go get them.
I'm thankful too. You know, saying that we've got a little something for everybody. I am thankful because you guys know this. We've got a handful, and I'm looking at the chat here, so I'm looking at Hyper Potato here. You know, we've got a handful of folks that back us regardless of what the content is, you know, whether we do a war comic or whether we do a superhero comic or whether we do a stuffed animal comic, they back us no matter what, you know.
True believers.
Those, you know, and ooh, I like that. Reckon that's been used before?
Boo Trelievers.
So I'm thankful that there are people out there like that who believe in us in the same way that we believe in us. You know.
Yeah. They know what they're getting. We have consistency.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So. And that's exciting.
Quality, variety, a level of excellence with the printing quality. I'm constantly overwhelmed getting the books, seeing how well it was done. The graphic collection of Kalis, so well done. In particular, great work on that. You know, I mean, not just the writing and the art and everything, but the production value of that, the printing.
Yeah,
just outstanding stuff. It's like that cut above. You know, Roland, what I'm talking about. Where you're an independent company, but you get the material and you can feel that quality. You can feel it in the books.
You know, I am not afraid to say that you know, you can put our books up against any other company out there and they hold up. You know, you want to put our book right beside a Marvel book, do it. I challenge you to do it. We hold up. You want to put our book right beside a Dark Horse book, do it. We hold up, and you know, they just have deeper pockets and a more regularity. That's the big difference between us, you know.
Well, we're working on that. We're going to get there.
Yep.
We want everybody to support the Kickstarter. Go there, support us as we come to the close of this broadcast.
Are you ready for me to launch it then?
We are ready for you to launch it right.
Hold on. I got one thing to show you.
You have a big button? Do you have a big button?
There's a big red button.
I have a big button on my screen.
Yeah.
I have something I'd kind of like to show.
Okay, please.
The very first ever drawing of Cray. This dates back to 1984.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Back before color.
That's before a lot of these.
That's before Haley.
Yeah, so Cray was before Haley.
Rory, I mean, barely. Come on, man.
Barely. So Cray was created when I was in junior college. See there, man. It just makes the heart.
See, right. I know, right?
Thank you.
We love you, Hyper. We love you, Hyper.
Yeah. Seriously.
And so I already knew then, right, that I wanted to do comics. Of course, I didn't know how to do it. I grew up in Mississippi, first generation college student, and all that kind of stuff. I knew I wanted to do comics, but I didn't know how. Well, I met that my RA at Hines Junior College, which is where I went to college first, was an artist. And we got to talking and this and that. And I'm like, I want to make comics. And you can draw. Let's make a comic. And so I really kind of twisted the guy's arm. But this is the first ever drawing of Cray. I don't know. Can you blow that one up so people can see it? You know how to do that?
That's cool.
That is cool.
Whoa. That is really cool.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah, okay.
So layout. Let's blow that up. Look at that.
Oh yeah!
Wow.
Yeah. It is cool.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's an artifact.
On an old, it's on an old drawing pad.
Not on a napkin.
This is the note the guy wrote to me, in which, because we were doing it together, right? And he just decided I don't want to do it. So I know you can't read it, but it says, Roland, I bequeath all of my works forthwith. All of my works forthwith.
That's legally binding.
To thee, which have been placed in your safekeeping, and I furthermore expect you to. Oh shoot!
Pay me millions of dollars.
Compile, design, and complete
publication.
the most awesome display of comic book in the multiverse. Okay.
Oh.
So the sad addendum to this is this guy's no longer with us, unfortunately.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's too bad.
he was okay, get it off of me.
Okay.
He was
We're back.
he was in the ATF, and he was one of the guys who was I don't know if you guys remember what happened at Waco, Texas, the Branch Davidians. You remember there were about I don't know, 5 or 6, something like that, law enforcement officers, ATF people killed. He was one of those.
Oh man!
Yeah.
All right.
And so it's unfortunate, but yeah, I have this his sketchbook, and I'll show some other stuff too, because there are other sketches of some of the characters in Cray, some of the characters which didn't make it into the comic. And so it's kind of exciting. I was able to show his family this information, and they were just way after the fact, and they were appreciative of that. And so
that's good. It's coming to life. Something that he touched on, and he was part of your life for that time. But here it is. It's a real book now. I mean, it lives. The story lives. So, and it was fun to read, man. It was fun. I read it to do the cover, and I was like, this is a Roland story. It had your fingerprints all over, in a good way. And I was like, okay, I want to read the next one, which is that's what you want at the end of the first book.
That's all you can ask for as a creator, right? Is have when they finish the issue, have them want to read the next one. So
absolutely. So
give me a countdown.
I would love to say right now that we're going to count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we go live with a triple Kickstarter, my friends, right now.
2,
I'm spinning.
5.
It's live.
It's live.
All right.
Go support it, everybody. Wow, what a show, man! This is one for the record books, kids. I mean, we knocked it out on this one. Roland, thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely,
and sharing the artifact. Thank you, and Haley, everybody, all the regulars, all the irregulars. We had a great time, as we always say as we come to the close of our broadcasts. We like to say, Make mine.
My name is Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios, and make mine Silverline.